Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. Now, today we have a really creative, very knowledgeable, experienced business coach. In fact, she calls herself the business builder. And the reason for that is because Marjorie's journey began 25 years ago. She created her first business in Mexico, an ecological travel agency. She learned and implemented based on her experience around creating structure, systems, processes, and really becoming that strategist that we all need for our businesses. Today, Marjorie works with creative designers, artists, entrepreneurs, and she works under extreme pressure. She knows how to steer her clients towards their aligned vision, making sure that their processes and goals are matched. She became part of her clients' businesses as a coach to make sure that she's able to work with them, things are implemented, and she's able to be there to support and guide them every step of the way to their success. Please welcome Marjorie to the stage. Oh my goodness, the awesome business builder. Thank you for coming onto the show, Marjorie.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Definitely. When I found out what it is that you actually do for your clients and that you're not calling yourself a business coach or a business strategist like everybody else, that you are a business builder because you help businesses from a very small level and help them grow, right? Where I guess a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners need from the beginning, they need that help because otherwise you're wandering around aimlessly trying to figure out how to do it all. And you're there to actually show them what needs to be happening every step of the way, which is awesome. Now, Marjorie, I know for a fact that your journey, right, it's taken a while to get. In fact, it's taken 25 years, right, to get to where you are. And so I would love for you to share with the audience today a little bit about what that journey looked like for you, so we can get a kind of a little teaser as to what Marjorie is really all about. So please share us what that experience looked like for you.
Well, 25 years ago, I met a boy. He was moving
Uh-oh.
back to Mexico, so I invited myself to join him. I've never been, so I thought, yeah, why not?
Mhm.
When I got there, I was like, okay, what do I do now? So I was always interested in business. I've always had a side hustle. Whatever job I had, I always did something on the side. And 10 months later, I discovered I love to travel. That's one thing that I do have in my pocket. I travel. I love traveling. So I partnered myself with someone and we went into the travel business, but it had to be something very unique. People were saying, "You're opening a travel agency. There's so many here." I said, "Yeah, I'll be special." And they look at me like, yeah, right. And it was special. This was an ecological travel. It was in because of the language. I speak Spanish, but it wasn't. I've never used it to negotiate, to create contracts. And I found that my niche was expats living in Mexico. I didn't realize how many foreigners live in Mexico. And the one thing they always needed was a travel agency. So being a foreigner myself, being an expat, I had entry to all this private clubs for foreigners.
Oh.
But I didn't start that way. I needed to make sure I knew what I was doing. So I took 3 months to structure my business. I had no money. I had $500. So with $500, my trusty computer, I created my own leaflets. I created a lot of things on my own, but I always made sure I had the structure set up, my programs for 1 year developed, and I had it both in Spanish and English. And then only
Oh.
then did I ask for an appointment with these groups. And there, without any backup, because I knew what I wanted. I saw the vision. I could see it in front of me. It's like having it written in front of you. And naturally, it, I was able to market myself. And my first group were mostly from the US Embassy. So
Wow.
I had a group of 30 people. So that was my first trip. taking them. So my programs are all in Mexico because of the expats. But from
Right.
there, I inherited the families, traveling outside Mexico. I inherited their husbands' companies. They needed somebody to organize the travel for their company. So it
Oh,
gradually grew. It grew really, really well. And then a year and a half later, I was able to get into the Mexican market with
ah,
private colleges, private high schools. After high
mhm.
school, the parents send them to Europe. So I would create their whole itinerary for 3 months. And the parents, being very, they were quite worried about their children being out of,
Right.
the country. But I made sure they had, if they were studying French, they were enrolled in proper schools, accommodation, everything. I did everything for them and I loved it. And I was so passionate about it. Every trip I created, I was in it. I was part of that journey. So after my stint in Mexico, I was invited to work for a fine art shipping company in the UK, and I took
Ah,
that opportunity. Yes, so that was with all the experience I brought in, I was able to then use my skills in different roles within the company.
interesting. Interesting. Now, Marjorie, with such a successful travel agency, why didn't you just continue doing that business and just continue to grow it? Why did you take a different direction?
Um, I think at the time, well, the relationship didn't work out, obviously, because I'm not there. Um, but something happened. Something happened when I was living there. There was, it was, it's a I don't want to say this because I don't want to, take away how wonderful it was living there because I really love them. I still do. I really love Mexico and I find it to be part of my heritage, adopted heritage. But
Hmm.
at the time there were a lot of kidnappings. So, and
Ah,
when I left, it was a clear cut, and I took the experience with me, but nothing else. So I don't
mm,
even have anything to remind me of what I've done. I just know what I've done. It's a shame, but you don't think about these things because I was moving for another job. It was a different industry, but shipping people or people traveling and shipping furniture, there's not a lot of difference there. It's the same sort of concept and same
ah,
excitement. Yes. And they asked me to run as part of a management team to run the office in New York to put it. It was a carte blanche to go there and turn the company around. So
right. Hmm.
this first assignment is putting structure. So basically, what I carried on with my experience, I brought it into into shaping the company we had in New York, the office we had in New York,
Right.
and
Awesome.
that was also an exciting time because all these challenges. I walked in to an office that was covered with boxes of unopened envelopes. So the
Oh my,
previous management just left it all in a mess. It was a mess. To say I couldn't even walk in is an understatement. It was, carte blanche. It was a big job and was not a joke. And never once did it occur to me to turn around and leave. I committed myself to go there, and maybe subconsciously, I like that challenge. and and I stayed.
wow. So what I'm hearing is not only did you go into this company brand new and set all the, the strategies and platforms and all the operations up, but you had to first clear out the mess that was left behind, right? Before you could even move forward and decide what kind of new things, strategies are you going to be putting in place. So that was like double the work that you had to
Yeah.
do.
Yes, it
That
was.
is crazy. That was, and how long did it take you to clear up what was left behind so you can, or the company can actually move forward with new strategies?
It was an ongoing battle from day one. So the first thing I
Okay.
needed to do was open all those envelopes. There must have been a good thousands of envelopes. So I needed to get a picture of what was happening, like what
Mm,
were the problems. So it's the same technique I use with entrepreneurs. Where are you at? So where is this company at? How we had no visible numbers as to what we owed. All I knew is my first visitors was a marshal. I didn't even know what a marshal. He was basically he came in and I go, okay, what assets do you have here? And I was completely confused as to why. But I explained I just started, you know,
mm,
let me figure out what's going on. And then, we went from there. And I have a lot of vendors to thank for because I called all of them to help me. I was new. I needed to find out what was going on, to send me statements, and then you just go from there. And then slowly
right.
figure out how I'm going to pay them, what's in the pipeline. So not only did I have to work on the structure, I had to look at the process. Who were getting credits. The clients were getting credits left, right, and center, and nobody was chasing them. So to get that, it was every day. And then come up with a payroll. I had a payroll to people to pay at the end of the week or the end of the month, bi-weekly. They do everything there bi-weekly. So yeah, it was a
Wow.
real. But after 3 years, we moved from that warehouse, which is 10,000 square, to a 35,000 square foot in Williamsburg. So that's pretty awesome.
Wow, that is. Now, it sounds like that you've worked with a lot of big corporations, right? And you've gone in there and you've kind of helped them work out what strategies, cleaned up what was left over. And so, right now, do you still work with corporations or are you working with, like the solopreneurs, the individual coaches? What kind of your clients are you working with at the moment?
I work mostly with entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
creatives. I love working with creatives. Creatives, for me, are people who are strong thinkers outside the box. They're
Ah,
out there, they're innovative, they're just and the thing is they're highly talented and very intelligent, like smart people. But the difference is that the delivery has to be different. How I deliver coaching to someone who works with spreadsheets will be very different from a creative. A creative, you sort of have to know how they take in information, and that's a skill
mm,
in itself. And the only way you could do that is getting to know them. You get to know them, ask them questions, and then you create the program for them based on how they take in how it you have to make it exciting. You laugh a lot, you
right,
joke a lot, you name things that are and but you get them to do the work. So that's the main thing for their success. They have a structure, they have a process in place, so they have it in place, and they don't have to keep thinking about and freaking out how to get it done. It's already there. And then you just put on the strategy. What is your vision? Why are you in business? Are you a hobby or business, or is your vision aligned with your processes? Is your processes able to support the business you're currently in? So you just make the changes, and yeah, then you put strategies. If their goal is earning a certain amount by the end of the year, you have to create the income stream or the revenue stream to support that. If they're
right.
selling
Now,
items for 10 pounds, they need a lot of sales to get there.
right. Absolutely. Now, it sounds like you work with various different, the creatives, the entrepreneurs, and you're that coach that understands personalities and how people learn, right? And that's, I guess, one of the unique things about you as a coach, because you do take that on board. Now, is there many differences as to the kind of failures or the things that they miss out on, your clients, what they miss out on? What are the biggest things if you could like speak to an entrepreneur right now, you've got a lot of listeners, entrepreneurs that maybe startups, three things that they need to think about when walking into building a business.
Well, a lot of things, a lot of the times you have to, the mindset place stops them from moving
Mm.
forward. Sometimes it's like, oh, wow, this is happening now. Why me? So they question how good they are. They don't have that belief. They know it, but they don't believe it. So a lot of the work is not only putting the structure, processes, strategies in, you're also helping them build that confidence, teaching them what a business is like. Because once
Yeah.
my programs are 6 months, I give them a month extra for, I call it an aftercare problem solution. They're going to have new problems, but these are solutions. They're building their team, they're building, they're adding people into their business. So that's the seventh month I work with them. But most of the time it's constantly going back to why they're in business and how they can build their business on their own while they're getting to learn about business. It's
Mm.
yeah, it's I've seen it. I've seen how they've changed their confidence, their posture. They understand when they speak about what they do, there's confidence in it. And they have all the elements that support them. So I would think
Fantastic.
three things. I would say mindset, 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 and discipline.
Oh, and yes, discipline is a big thing, right? Because it's one thing when you are focused and you got clarity as to what you want to do, but is the discipline day after day and making sure that you actually implement the things you need to actually build a successful business, right?
Yes.
And so, what I hear a lot of the time is the lack of discipline, right? Or they say to me, that they've got discipline because they were, a veteran or they were in the police force, and that's where they built a lot of their discipline. However, there's other people out there that I just worked in corporate, right? And were managed and were told what they needed to do and really didn't need to have that discipline because day in, day out, they were micromanaged. So, how do you build that discipline to make sure that you are doing what you need to do and you have that accountability and the support to push you forward?
Well, most of the time, what I do is we create the work together, and then you send them off, and they complete the work. They send it back, and then you look at it, and then you work on the next project. The next point in their processes, and that helps them because they know they're not. They don't have to do it on their own. They do the work up to a certain point. They share it, and you go back. I had I actually have a client when we started. I asked her who her target market is. Target client and target audience. They're two different things. So who do you want to work with?
Mm-hmm.
Introduce that person. Like, give it a name if you want to give it a name. Don't give it a name. But they say don't give it a name, but it doesn't really matter. It's fun when you give it a name because you start laughing and there's fun in it. And
Right.
one of my clients, she's like, well, she's this person is 35, she's da 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 da, she drinks white wine. What does she like? Where does she shop? Does she go to Waitrose, Sainsbury, Morrison? Like you really go
Right.
down to this person. And at the end she says, oh, wow. I know these people. I know these people. I actually know them. They all live in this area or this, whatever. But it was like, yeah, I said, this is 80%. Let's go deeper. Like,
Mm.
because somebody successful might want to change, but they're not ready for it. It doesn't mean because they're successful, they have the finances to start a business. See, you have to look at all of that. Not
Mm.
because somebody has a high paying job means they've got savings to start a business. Whereas somebody
Yeah.
who might have the savings but not the mindset. So, there's all those elements that you look into.
Yeah.
And you just ask the questions, ask the right questions, and just keep and make it fun, creatives, they like to create. They're fun people, then I named the income streams. I said, let's name the income streams. So if you have a passive income that gives you, how can something give you a passive or like a regular income? Would be
Hmm.
for the designer, could be having stockists, like delivering to department stores, having clients, boutiques, and where she sells her jewelry. So if they buy on a regular basis, you can count them as one income stream. Then you have your bespoke people who order from you. That would be another income stream. So whenever she gets, I name it Eeny Meeny Miny Mo, because I give them four income streams. So
Mm.
eeny meeny, so I would say, okay, and she would say, I got a bespoke client today. Wow. So what do you call it? And she'll say, Mo. And we want Mo, Mo. We'll start playing. See, it's fun. You're confident, you're passionate about what you're doing. You just gotta mow in.
Right. Oh, I love that. Now, I want to take a couple of steps back here because in the very beginning, you mentioned that you started your travel agent business with just $500, right? And you've
Yes,
mentioned now
yes.
that, you've got to take on board that not everyone has the money to build a business. And so you've got to be resourceful, right? And so I would love for you to explain to our audience today, what does being resourceful mean and what does it look like? Where can you get resources from to actually start a business?
Being resourceful is starting with what assets you have. So assets are not, it doesn't mean as the value of an asset could be you're good at social media. So you
Okay.
do your own marketing. You do your own marketing. You hire a marketing person and a marketing coach to help you. That means you need to invest in that. And if you don't have that, and you know a little bit about social media, then you start on your own. You start on
Mm.
your own. You normally have a laptop or a desktop. You can do your own emailing. You can do your own connection network. Face now that we're doing face to face, that's it's client building. Client building. Speak to people. Join networking groups. Check what's online for free. Workshops that are for free. You're
Mm.
always going to learn something from it. When I
Right.
started, I invest, like I said, in Mexico, I had $500. I spoke Spanish. They couldn't understand me.
Mm.
I negotiated with airlines, and they speak English, but they refuse to speak English. You always have to speak Spanish. You're in their country. And I remember to this day, they would stare at me like, what is she saying? And they're intent, but they don't want to be rude. They're very polite. And then all of a sudden you see their face light up. It's like, oh my God, I got it. I understood. I always got the deal.
Oh, wow.
But it's just because of, I guess I delivered enough that they understood what I was trying to say. But I made such great connections. And that's what you
Mm.
can do when you don't, if you're just starting out and you don't have the finance to do, look for what's free and learn from it. Be open, collaborate. You can collaborate with other people as well. And that's what I
Wow.
did when I was in Mexico. Um, because I was an expat, I had the opportunity to meet other expats. So that in a way was a real opportunity. But I was living in Mexico in a Spanish speaking country. So I had to look for things. I taught English for executives. So that
Uh-huh.
gave me an income that I can pay my rent and continue to pursue my agency. I just did a lot of things. I did a lot of things on my own. I did a lot of posts on my own. I looked for sponsorship to sponsor me to be able to get into um, trade shows. And you use your resources, and
I
that
love that. There's so much stuff you can do, and there's so much information out there that's for free as well, right? And it's just kind of buckling down and going through things and just searching for what you need and all of that stuff, and working with you alongside that to kind of, you know, help people every step of the way so they are very focused as to what they need to do. Because you know, the internet, the minute you start on the internet, you end up going down this wormhole, and all of a sudden you're looking at Amazon products, right? And shopping. And so, and so someone like you can keep people on track. Now, you've worked with a lot of different clients. What would you say are the three biggest mistakes that a lot of people making that you've seen them make?
Um, is you know the word FOMO? They think they
Yes.
need it, so they spend what a little money they have for investing into the wrong thing. And I keep
Ah,
telling, and I always tell them, no spending, no spending. We're not spending a cent until we have to. If you're just starting, you don't need to do a lot of things that would cost money because the return on investment is hardly there. So
mm,
I had a client who wanted to hire a marketing company to do all the ads, promotion, and I'm like, but you've got enough assets. You've got photographs, you've got great videos. There's things that you have that you can use. Use that. It's all testing anyway. You're testing to, you've got enough good stuff to go out to be
mhm,
tested. If it doesn't work, go back. But don't, I try not to spend right away and use, because I'm having started with $500 and I knew how I grew. I represented the Mexican government trade show in the UK, the global trade show. And people's
nice.
like, you don't sound Mexican. I said, no, but I've got a brochure for my company. But it's really using your resources and look at what you have before you buy. I would say that. Then you know that when you buy, you've asked yourself the right questions and then you spend for it. Then you know whatever you get out of it is you were that's the expectation you're getting from that investment. And I highly recommend people to really look at what they have because we have enough stuff. It's like having
Right.
enough clothes, shoes. We know all that, right? During the pandemic, we didn't dress. So, but the same thing in business. Look at what you have, use your assets, connect with other people, collaborate, and then, yeah, but always have what is the end result you want. That
Okay.
that's what
Awesome.
I
So
would suggest.
that was one biggest mistake that people make. Do you have two more of the biggest mistakes people make?
Comparing.
Oh,
Oh, I had one client just, I went to this trade show and they told me they've been in business for over 13 years and they've never been accepted at Liberties. Liberties is a really nice department store in the UK.
yes.
And
Hmm.
I said, and here you are, 6 months later, you're in there. So what is the problem? Oh, they're telling me it'll take millions to get my brand out there. And I'm like, okay, well, that's their experience. That's good information. That doesn't have to be your story. So you always
Right.
have to steer people. There, we all know somebody will always be better. Somebody will always be. There's 8 billion people in the world. How many clients do you need? You don't need 8 billion. You only need a good size, depending on how big you want to grow. But that's the second thing is comparing yourself to others.
I like that because everyone does it. I know I've been a culprit of doing that, right? Everyone does it. And I think in the beginning where confidence is so low, people tend to do that so much, right? And when you see other people in your target market or your competitors, and yeah, you just get stuck in that
Yeah.
whole comparing scenario. So that is a very good point. That's awesome. Okay. And so what would be the third biggest point?
The third is always feed your mind. Feed your mind with the right stuff. I meditate every day. When I feel overwhelmed, I ground myself. It's 20 minutes, 20 minutes of just sitting just sitting on with your feet grounded on the floor, and just breathe in and out, and then ask yourself, what message do you want to give yourself for today? and
Ah,
and then you get started. One of the things is that when you start working, like you say, you get distracted with
mm,
Facebook. We all do that. There's no
yeah.
one. But if you focus on doing one thing, regardless of how, sending an email that you promised someone, after you're done with that, get up, go get a glass of water, or make yourself a nice cappuccino or whatever. But always take breaks. I
Mm,
work from 9 to 10 o'clock at night because I enjoy what I do, but I take breaks in between. People think, "Oh, you're crazy. You're working so much." Actually, I don't work a lot. I just work and take breaks. Work, take breaks. I take a break, I hoover, and then I go back to work. And I do one more thing, and then I stop and I hoover another part of the house. So, you have to take breaks and feeding yourself. I've now created, every time someone says, "Oh, you've got to read this book," I write it down. I write it down to see, later on, I'll check them out. But yeah, there's a lot of good books there. There's a lot of good books. But
I love that.
meditation is real. You don't need to be spiritual to meditate. But if you sit with
Absolutely.
yourself when you feel overwhelmed, to just feel grounded, I think that really helps a lot.
Awesome, awesome. Oh my goodness, Marjorie, so many golden nuggets in such a short amount of time. Thank you so much. Now, I know at this point people are thinking, oh my goodness, I need to get a hold of Marjorie. She needs to help me with my business. So where can they go to connect with you?
Well, I've got a website, which is smartbusinessdesigns with an s.com. And I'm also promoting August, September, and October business blueprint, which is a deep dive session for 2 hours. We go in and look at where you're at in your business, what's not working. If it's working, why touch it? It's the areas that's not working. And yes, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. Marjorie Gutierrez. A lot of people have difficulties pronouncing my last name, but with smartbusinessdesigns.com, that would be
Okay.
probably the easiest. My email's there.
Perfect, perfect, guys. If you haven't already connected with Marjorie, make sure you go ahead and do so. The links will also be in the show notes, so make sure you go and check them out. Go and connect with her, have a conversation with her, see what she can do, because I'm sure that she can help you push your business even further than where it is right now, right? So go ahead and do it. Marjorie, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.